Hello everyone, hope you're all doing well. My name is Omer Khan and I'm the founder and CEO of MOK School of Law, and I have been teaching students enrolled with the University of London LLB Honours Program, and I've also been teaching law to students pursuing law at A-levels as well. And we're very delighted and honored to have Barrister Adil Zuberi with us, who's come all the way from the UK. Barrister Adil is a barrister in the UK, and he's been practicing law and litigation in the County Court, in the Queen's Bench Division, in the Chancery Division, in the Family Division, in the Court of Appeal, and the Supreme Court of the UK as well. He is born and raised in the UK himself. He is originally from Pakistan. His origin is from Pakistan, and we see them for the love of biryani that he has. But he is practicing law in the UK in an amazing chamber that we'll obviously shortly get onto as well. A lot of students will be watching this podcast, and most students who study here are students who want to pursue law, be it corporate law, litigation. Some want to pursue civil service. Some wants to, eventually go towards politics. Let us keep it more of an educational sort of a podcast, and also let's talk about the core competencies, the skill set required to become a successful litigator. A lot of students in Pakistan, they go to the UK for their undergrad LLB, and they eventually also pursue their bar at law with the hopes that they will end up getting a pupillage there in the UK and pursuing litigation, or even becoming a solicitor after completing their SQE. Can you talk a little bit about what is bar at law, and also let us know about what was your experience? And you've done your bar at law from the Honourable Society of Lincoln's Inn.
Yes, I was called to Bar Lincoln.
Yeah. So can you talk about what was the entire experience like? A lot of people talk about, they have a basic idea. I take interviews of students and I ask them, why do you want to pursue law? And they say, well, we want to become barristers. And I ask them, what is a barrister? They say, well, we don't know what a barrister is, but we just want to become one. So there's this huge fascination for barristers and the title of bar, pursuing bar at law, all of that. What was your experience like when you were called to the bar, going to the Honourable Society of Lincoln's Inn, and a lot of students have this basic idea that you're supposed to go for dinners and you have to network. Tell us all about your journey of becoming a barrister after your LLB.
No, so it's a really interesting question. I'll break it down in a few. Obviously it's a big question, so I'll break it down as much as I can. So you start with, obviously, right after your bachelor's. By that point you know what you want to do. Yeah. So I had a pretty good idea. I never really wanted to.
I'm sorry to cut you, but after this LLB, you had this option of pursuing SQE or bar at law, or even LLM, right? And you chose bar at law instead.
I did my master's with it, so I did the...
So that was the top up.
Yes.
Why did you not become a solicitor? Why did you become a barrister? Why choose litigation over corporate? What was that?
So this goes to the heart of your question. So the difference between solicitor and barrister. It really takes an understanding as to what the roles are. A solicitor, so in Pakistan, as an advocate, you have a bit of a joint role. As in America, you watch Suits and you'll see that they're attorneys and, they do everything. They go into court, but they also prepare the case. Barristers don't prepare the case as such. We get briefs or instructions. There's an interesting distinction. Because it's educational, I'll explain. Brief is when you are attending court. Instructions are when you're asked to draft papers. So there's a difference. Sometimes solicitors will send you instructions and they title it brief. It's fine. But there's a brief distinction there if you really want to be technical. So what a barrister is one of your main questions. And this then answers why I didn't want to be a solicitor. What a barrister is a leader in a lot of respects. So you will, the lay client, so the client who's actually suffering the case, and the solicitor, who's your professional client, they will look to you for leadership in their case because you're the specialist. You're a specialist at law. That's the first thing. So I'm a commercial barrister largely. I do other work as well. I do chancery. I do other things, public law as well, but mainly commercial. And so they will look to me for specialist knowledge. That's the first thing. The second thing is obviously what we all know, which is going to court. So they will want you to go to court and represent them. And you're a specialist advocate. So the first thing I said was you're a specialist. And the second thing is you're an advocate. So you're a specialist advocate. Yeah. That's what a barrister is. But the key thing there, and I think a lot of students miss this, is leadership. This is something I didn't know the first time. So when I was doing my scholarship interviews, which I didn't get, by the way, I didn't get a scholarship from Lincoln's Inn. I got called to the bar from Lincoln's Inn. I didn't get the scholarship. I applied. is because I missed the concept of leadership. I didn't quite understand barristers are meant to be seen as leading their little group. In every case you do, people look to you. So that's the first thing. But the second thing is, as I say, obviously, advocacy skills are a given, responsibility, deadlines. These are all the usual buzzwords. कोई भी काम आप करेंगे तो आपको responsibilities उठानी पड़ेंगी. You have to be on time. You have to do all these usual things. It's nothing different at the bar as well.
And I'm sorry to interject. तो आप इतनी जो बेहतरीन उर्दू बोल रहे हैं, you've been born and raised in the UK, like I mean, amazing. I mean, how did you?
वो हमारी अम्मी का कमाल है. वो उन्होंने बचपन से हमें बोलता है कि घर पे उर्दू, बाहर आप इंग्लिश बोल रहे हैं, आप भले आप it's fine. घर में आपको उर्दू बोलनी है तो ये.
That's good cultural.
और फिर जब भी मौका मिलता है भाग के पाकिस्तान आ जाते हैं. आप लोग से मिलते हैं, आपकी उर्दू इतनी बेहतरीन होता है, हमारी भी अच्छी हो जाती है. लेकिन yeah, so obviously I've explained very briefly what a barrister is. You're a specialist advocate. You're a leader in your little group. But the difference between a solicitor is, so barristers don't meet their clients until usually either in conference, and that's when you're already instructed, or on the day of court, right? Solicitors ka aisa nahi hai. Solicitors are the direct line of communication with the client, right? They prepare the case. They're there from day one, right? Barristers to baad mein aate hain. Aisa kafi hota hai, and I prefer it jab solicitors hame on board jaldi le, right? That's good because then I can get a hold of the case early, right? But sometimes demand nahi hoti, sometimes there's cost issues, sometimes you just don't need me there, right?
All right, I'm just going to interject here as well for my A-level students. For students studying with me for AS Law, they have this paper 1 and there's a particular chapter on you guys, barristers and solicitors, right? They talk about,
This is the English legal system.
English, yeah, E-level. So you've taken A-level law as well?
No, I didn't take A-level, but this comes up at university. So it's a good thing to. बच्चे अगर आप देख रहे हैं, आप मेहनत करें इस.
And academically, what we learn is that in today's age and time, in the UK, traditionally what used to happen is that solicitors used to do all the research and the drafting and give that entire case to the barrister, and the barrister would eventually go to the court and argue the case before a judge. But now that has changed. After the conveyancing, the process of conveyancing was allowed to solicitors as well. They started, getting the license, and they could now plead a case before a judge as well as the lower courts, although they don't have the entire right of audience. But now they say that the barristers also do their own research and drafting and
yes, of course,
themselves. So is that not true? Practically,
it's completely true. I'd like to think, obviously, so I was born in 1999, so I joined the bar after the Wolf reforms, after the Jackson reforms. And so obviously there's a marked difference between the bar pre-1999, I guess, and post-1999. But I think this concept of solicitor prepare karke deta hai, barrister jaake bas bolta hai.
Yeah.
It's a very minimalist view of what the bar is. It can't be that. Barristers prepare their own skeletons. I'm adamant. कभी-कभी ऐसा होता है, solicitors आपको skeleton देते हैं, right? Because they're instructing you एक दिन पहले, right? In commercial law, that's not usually, you shouldn't do that, right?
You practice criminal litigation or civil?
Civil, only civil, yeah, commercial civil.
What in particular?
Business and property. So we don't call ourselves commercial lawyers anymore. We call ourselves business and property lawyers now. Whatever that means.
Sounds more fancy.
It sounds fancy, right? So commercial is vague, but business and property. Like, it's more than just that.
But over here in Pakistan, we have a concept of a law firm, right? There are 2-3 partners have been practicing for years, and now they have opened up a law firm, and then they have their internees and their junior associate, associate partners, and associates, and the partners have their clients. They get the case. The juniors do the research. They have the basic arguments, and then the main arguments are done by the partners. That format. You don't have a law firm in the UK. There's something called chambers. How is that different?
So we have law firms for solicitors. So they'll work in the law firms. We work in chambers. Barristers are self-employed.
All right. Okay.
So barristers aren't employed by chambers.
So you're a lawyer, but a businessman essentially.
No, I am the business. I'm registered as a self-employed business. I'm a sole trader. I'll explain the concept of chambers. It's a very interesting question. Because ye cheezein we don't know, right? And chambers have very funny names. You'll have brick court, yeah, paper buildings, yeah, whatever that means, right? So it's named after the street. The concept of the chambers is a very historic concept. Barristers used to work. Obviously we're self-employed, so we'd work alone, but we have barristers clerks, जो आप पाकिस्तान में clerk कहते हैं, वहाँ पे clerk होते हैं, clerk की काफी इज्जत होती है वहाँ पे, होनी भी चाहिए. And it's a big change, right? ऐसा काफी होता है पाकिस्तानी वहाँ आते हैं बोलते हैं एक सेकंड ये तो मेरे clerk है क्या हो गया? नहीं, clerks have a very high esteem over there. But what they realized was barristers कि भाई हम सब के 5 clerks हैं, हम सब rent pay कर रहे हैं. If we pool our resources together, हम सब एक clerk को share करेंगे. तो it'll be cheaper. तो भाई ये सस्तापन और ये जो एक जुगारूपन था ना, ये बैरिस्टर्स ने अपनाया. And that's why we have chambers. So chambers literally means it's a house, right? It's a room. So we all sit in a room and we share the resources that come with the building. Chambers come with the building, right? That's what the building is. We just sit in it, right? We rent it out. That's why we pay chambers rent. And very quickly on this as well, just because it's relevant. If there's a falling out, if a barrister has a falling out with their clerk, it's not the clerk that leaves, because the clerk comes with the building, right?
Yeah.
It's the barrister that leaves, which is why maintaining that relationship with your clerk is very, very important. They get you the work. Someone explained, a KC explained this to me really early on. If you know how musicians have their managers?
Yeah.
As a barrister, you're the talent, right? And they're your managers. A musician without a manager is not going to go very far, right? A barrister without a clerk is not going to go very far.
Right. So the clerk is essentially a person who will get you the cases. So it's probably the agent. So you give a commission on that?
Yeah. So through chambers rent, they get, there's certain rates, different chambers have different rates. I'm not going to say what mine is, but there's a rate. And we pay, so a portion of every case goes to them. The way we handle it is कि आप महीने के एंड में जो भी आपकी total बनता है, वो उसका एक portion वहाँ चले जाता है, clerk की तरफ.
Now a very important question, right? So even for students who pursue undergrad from the UK and they complete their LLB and eventually, they pursue bar and they're called to the bar, a lot of Pakistani students with the Pakistani nationality don't end up with the pupillage. Why is that?
There's two reasons. One is a stark reality. I'd like to think we don't live in a world where this matters as much anymore, but one is the accent. You'll notice my English accent is changing a lot just in talking like this, right? So I can speak in a very British accent, and that's probably what this is. And it sounds a lot posher, and it's very sort of Etonian, and and then I can talk in like a slightly more relaxed English accent, and that's just because it's easier, right? I don't have to focus as much.
But you consciously focus on that when you're pleading a case before a judge?
It's who I'm talking to. So in front of a judge, it's very posh. Just because
एक
रवानगी में हो जाता है ना कि आप गोरों के साथ हैं तो आप एक अलग accent आ जाता है. यहाँ पे ये है कि there's no need English accent की आपको ज़रूरत नहीं. You speak with what you hear, right? So over there it's obviously a far more English setting, so speaking in English accent. So that's the first thing. I think accent का एक हल्का सा मसला होता है. I should just explain as well. This is a reality for even people in the UK. The northern accent it's changing now. I'd like to think it's changing, and I think statistics show it is changing. Like in the Etonian English accent, the Queen's English, the very posh southern accent, it still has a pedigree over the northern accents or slightly other accent. Not because it's better, it isn't. Right, it's just because it sounds better, apparently, to the historic, sort of traditional view. So I think that it's a real issue, right? I think that's the first thing for Pakistanis. The second thing is the understanding of what a barrister is. मैंने देखा there's a severe lack of understanding. Pakistani जो मैं देखता हूँ आते, भाई हम barrister हैं भाई. हम ऐसे.
They consider it as a title.
Yeah, a title. यार it's a job, right? आप chill करो. इतना इसमें कोई वो नहीं है, right? अब नहीं shooting करेंगे and हम personality बन गए हमारी एक, right? तो माशा आप तो वैसे अच्छे लगते हैं, right? इसमें कोई वो नहीं है. लेकिन the point is कि it's and look, the bar is steeped in tradition. So and it's nice. These dinners and the robes and Lincoln's Inn, and it's all very nice. But the job is more than just all the fancy stuff. Yeah. It's beyond the silverware and like the nice fancy dinners and the 5-course meals, and that's why barristers don't really have six packs and abs and stuff. But it's more than that. Like in Pakistanis उन चीजों में भरमबाजी में खो जाते हैं, right? कि हम cool लगेंगे और suits की life होगी और Harvey Specter बने हुए हम. ऐसा नहीं है.
Is Harvey Specter reality in the
UK? No. I'm saying the UK. No, I'd love to write a legal show about the bar in the UK. I'd love to write it, but look.
So when Harvey Specter goes to the judge and say, "With all due respect, my lordship, the opposite learned counsel is full of shit," you can't say that in the court. You don't.
आप एक तमीज के दायरे में रह के कह सकते हैं, लेकिन वो shit वाला.
हाँ, ऐसा नहीं कह सकते.
I've had arguments with learned counsel where they interrupt me, and then you shouldn't do, but every now and then I'll get worked up. And I'll be like,
so let me ask you this question.
As in लोगों को बोलता हूँ, right? क्या हो गया यार?
Let me ask you this question. So unfortunately, there's a trend in Pakistan. Once you become a graduate of law, you're maybe still interning in some law firm, or maybe you're a junior associate. The pay scale isn't that great. It's a sad reality. This is how it is. When you started off your journey in practicing law, how has it been? I don't want the number, of course. We don't want to the tax department after your life?
I'm very open with money, by the way, but I can give you general figures.
Okay, so how much does a barrister starts earning in the UK in the early ages of their career?
Firstly, it depends on the area of law, right?
Let's talk about your area, like commercial law.
Commercial and public are the two main things I do. A commercial lawyer in the first year, depending on the set you're in, right? And commercial mein chancery bhi aa jata hai, right? Chancery, by the way, for those who don't know, I'm still learning what chancery is really, but chancery is like wills, probate, insolvency, inheritance, these sort of things. That's chancery stuff. Chancery earns slightly more because it's slightly more niche, private client work.
What's more?
Okay, yes, that's a good question.
We can have a general figure,
I'm just trying. So it's so variable, right? I'll tell you in my chambers, right? Generally speaking, in your first year, you should be making 100K, right? Annually, 100K straight up, right? Pre-tax, obviously, right?
And how much is left after the tax?
So it depends on how much you're getting taxed and how clever you are with it. But yeah, I mean, it can depend. Take home first year, you're probably looking at something like 50 to 60,000.
And a seasoned lawyer after practice of a decade or 2 decades, yeah.
Oh, you should be. So it goes up, right? So for commercial and public,
some lawyer that you would know, a very senior, some mentor that you look up to.
300,
how much do you think?
400, up to 500K. I mean, if you're silk, you're earning millions. It can go up. So, and not necessarily. So this depends on you. If you work hard, you learn more. Yeah, simple, right? And if the more senior you get, you should be earning more. If you see that not happening, probably time to change careers, right? So it's. There's always indicators, but alhamdulillah, the money is really good in commercial work. The money's आपको complaints नहीं होगी, और अगर है आपके पास complaints, right? Then there's something wrong either with you or the work you're doing, right?
Now, when you argue a case before a judge, can you give me an example of a very challenging case, and the other opposite counsel was making really good arguments, and you thought, oh my God, he's got me. Any example of that, or that has never happened?
Yeah. It happens, and those are the moments you live for, right? You become a barrister because you want to be challenged, you want a fun debate, you want an interesting legal argument, right? So that's easy cases. Ke liye aap barrister nahi bante, right? What's the point, right? If it's easy, so you want a challenge, and I'll give you one recent one. Right, it was to do with. Do you want the legal background, like the case itself?
Yeah, of course. Why not?
Yeah, sure. So it was ek maa thi, right? That's how cases usually start. Ek maa thi, right? And you see where I'm going with this. She died, right? So and then she left behind a husband who I think was an ex-husband, and a child. Child was about 6 years old. Is 6 years old, I should say. What then happens is the mum. She had to work in a death in work policy, so death in service policy, right? Which is basically it's what your students might recognize from equity in trusts. It's a discretionary trust. So the way it works is she writes so the work says अगर आप काम करते हुए मर गए हमारे साथ, right? तो हम इतने पैसे आपके एक beneficiary को दे देंगे, right? So आप बता दें कि किसको देना है. So you write what's known as a letter of wishes. She wrote something down. It's a confidential letter, by the way, right? So they don't have to disclose it. So she left that. And माँ मर गई, हमें लगा हमारे पास आएगा. मतलब मेरी client was the child, by the way, and represented through her father, because you can't represent children like through without a litigation friend. And what then happens is पैसे तो हमारे पास नहीं आते, पैसे कहाँ जाते हैं? वो जो मरी है माँ, उनकी माँ को, मतलब मेरी client की नानी को, right? तो अब बाप तो अच्छा mostly बाप तब हुआ था mostly, but बाप was like, hey, what's happening? Like there's one child, you'd think the money would go to her, right? I mean that's what should happen, I suppose. So now they want that letter disclosed. The company, which is a really famous international company, I'm not going to name it, but it's a really big company. That company said, "हम तो नहीं दिखा रहे भाई आपको letter of wishes. हमने जो it's up to us who we give it to, right?" And that's legally correct. But we want it disclosed anyway. So we make what's known as a pre-action disclosure application. Now, it's a tough legal debate. So, and this is where the research comes in. We were talking earlier about barristers doing their research. Yeah. The solicitors don't do this area of work. So they reached out to me saying, look, we know you do this area. We've heard of you. We've seen you've done well in this. Can you please give us an indication as to whether or not this has legs? And I thought, interesting case, right? Yeah. So I was like, let's do it, right? And at the time I took it, I didn't think, it wasn't entirely sure whether we'd win. And then you do your research and you find a few cases, but it can go either way. It's discretionary, right? Yeah. You look at the case, and the other side's barrister rocked up, very senior barrister, about 20 years qual. I'm only 4 years qual, by the way. Yeah. So I was called in 2021. He was called before I was born, by the way, right? So he's been practicing longer than I've been alive, right? So he's beyond 20 years called. He's like nearly 30, right? 25, 26. So and he was very good, right? अच्छा एक चीज ये होती है कि जब आपके सामने इतना कोई सीनियर बंदा आता है, आप खुद अपने माइंड में होते हैं कि यार मतलब क्या होगा, इतना सीनियर बंदा आ रहा है, मैं क्या करूंगा? You have to put that away. That's always there, I do think. With me at least, it's always there. एक थोड़ी सी complex में आ जाते हैं आप. You have to put it aside. At the end of the day, an argument's only as good as the points. It's only as good as its substance, right? Yeah. So don't hide behind titles or year of call. You have to deal with the argument, right? And I start. So there's a whole test. I won't get into what the legal test is, but मैंने शुरू करी. It's my application, so I start. And I started, and very simply in about 10 minutes I wrapped up, and I was like, Judge, unless I can assist any further, those are my submissions, right? I'll reserve the right to respond, right? So fine. He starts, right, and he speaks for about 45 minutes. He just speaks, right? And he's sare issues, and he brought up all the cases and stuff. But because he was speaking so slowly, a bit too slow, I think. Actually, मैं बहुत जल्दी बोलता हूँ, I know, right? But he was speaking very slowly. And उसने बहुत ही scenic route लेके and judge को, पूरे passages पढ़वा रहा है. अगर मैं एक authority judge के सामने रख रहा हूँ, like judge, and I want the judge to read the whole page. I'll say, Judge, just read that. I'll pause for a minute. I'll just wait. मैं पूरा transcribe करके उनको सुनाऊंगा नहीं, right? Because the judge can read, right? What's the point? I'll become an annoyance, right? This is one of those tips that young advocates should know. But वो तो पूरा पढ़ा रहा था भाई, पूरे chapter, just it's like bedtime reading, right? Yeah. So I'm sitting there like, okay, I was like, maybe पढ़ लेता हूँ. So I read a bit ahead, right? And so that was a really good chance for me to sort of use his case against him. So I did. I read ahead, found some points within the same authority. And then it was my turn to speak, and I was like, right, screw this. I'm going to speak for a bit longer now, right? I was like, and normally I don't do this. I'm very cold in submissions, but I was like, it's a 6-year-old kid, right? Usko paise nahi mile. Her mom's just died. Let's play on the emotion, right? So फिर मैंने ऐसे ही तकरीर करी. Emotional, right? I was like,
if you could do the same तकरीर for us.
The puri, I
थोड़ी बहुत any, हाँ थोड़ी बहुत.
I'll give you a snapshot. I was like,
we want to see how you make your case before the judge.
Fine.
We want to see how it's different than the gist of you.
I'll give you an example. Right? So the background here is it's about confidentiality, and the court, there is an established principle that letters of wishes are confidential. So that's what I'm fighting against. I've got the uphill battle here, right? Yeah. But the court has a discretion. So I'm playing on that discretion. I'm saying this, right? I'm like, Judge, at the end of the day, notice how the accent changes, right? Yeah. So, Judge, at the end of the day, this is a 6-year-old child. You have the discretion. I went through all the passages, and I was like, Judge, at the end of the day, you have a discretion. Let's just take a step back and look at the context of the case. There is a 6-year-old daughter here who will grow up wondering why her mother didn't leave her any money, right? And her dad will have no answer to give her unless you give her the letter of wishes. We asked for a list of documents. I was like, even if you don't give 4 of those, the one thing that we do need is the letter of wishes. Because that way, right now my client's in a black hole of information. But she has nothing, right? But just for the comfort, which is something that the trustees should have considered, because it's part of their duty to consider the rights of potential beneficiaries in a discretionary trust. It's important that the court step into that role and look at the wider context here and see the wider relief it can grant. It's not just about the principle of confidentiality. It's about the wider principle of why that confidentiality can be set aside. Yeah. And so you really play on the emotion, say it's a 6-year-old kid, you really play on that. And sometimes I should say that's probably the only time I've ever used emotion in court, but it works. It has its place. I like to use humor more. It's one of those things that judges, I think, appreciate. Kuch judges के साथ काम नहीं होता, वो आपको ऐसे देखते हैं कि क्या मतलब?
Where's your legal argument?
But that was a really tight debate with the other side's counsel, because he was bringing up authorities and and then I had to go into deep into the authorities, and it was back and forth. So it was a whole thing.
Let's move your a day in life of a barrister. How does your day start? What are the challenges? What's good? What's bad? What's the networking like? Yeah. How you dress up? Kya hota hai? I just want to know how the day is.
So it varies. One of the reasons why I became a barrister is because I can't have a mundane life. I can't have a 9 to 5 daily. Kuch locally, that's perfect. If you like that, if you like the organized structure, become a solicitor. I'd say so. Right? Become a solicitor. It's wonderful, right? As a barrister, I have 18-hour days some days, right? And then I have 5-hour days some days, right? It can vary. It can vary very much. I'll tell you the life of a commercial barrister. Something I didn't appreciate is how much paperwork there is in the background. You're drafting advice. It's not just all oral arguments. You're drafting advices. You're drafting pleadings, right? Particulars of claim, defenses, replies, bar 18 questions, etc., right? Emails and khatam nahi hoti, right? I've got PTSD from the little ping notification, right? It just doesn't end, right?
Yeah.
So there's all of that. So I wake up, if I've got nothing, if I haven't got a court deadline, I'll wake up quite late. I sleep in. My clerks hate me for it, but I always sleep in. I stay up late, right? I stay up till like 3 a.m. So I wake up late. Nashta karte hain bhai hum, kuch YouTube videos dekhte hain, chill karte hain. Then I log in, and I'm like, right, okay, I've got a list of things I need to get through. Yeah. If it's a non-court day, I'll have paperwork. I'll get.
Do you think client dealing is something that you have to do?
What is, sorry?
Client dealing.
Client dealing is, yeah, so with my professional clients, yeah, for sure. And that's calling them, discussing a case. You really want to be on top of it.
Do you think that requires a different level of skill to deal with these clients, make them understand the law, telling them to be patient with the case? It takes time. It's not an open shut case.
Yes,
stuff like that.
It's something you should ideally learn in pupillage. If your pupil master is good, and mine was fantastic, he's this brilliant barrister called Dan.
Tell me about your pupillage.
Yeah. Pupillage was okay. It's not as hard as everyone makes it out to be.
Isn't?
I didn't think so.
First 6 months, you're not allowed to go to the court. Like, you make a case, and after the 7th month, like...
Yeah, first 6 months you shadow. So I shadowed Daniel Metcalf, who's a brilliant barrister. We have a slightly different approach in advocacy. I think he's far more direct and bold, and he's very sort of strong in court. I'm probably a bit more slippery, I think. He's a great role model to be, and I try and make myself more like him because he's brilliant.
You do need a role model in any given situation.
Yeah, exactly. But it's difficult when your role model is so different from you because we're very similar in some respects.
Yeah.
But I try and be a bit more like him when I can. But so first 6 months I shadowed him, and he was brilliant. He gave me work to do. He would do his drafting and say, okay, you draft this as well, and we'll compare. Or I'll mark yours, and so you learn drafting that way. You really learn a lot of the law and the arguments and the knowledge from paperwork, right? And then you apply that in court once you've learned it, you apply it in oral advocacy. Yeah. Second 6 months is, okay, I'll put it this way. By the time you're at pupillage, if your advocacy is not good, you wouldn't have gotten pupillage. So your oral advocacy it must be good by that point. It's not going to be perfect, you won't be the finished model, but it must be good, right? So there's not a lot of testing of that. You do advocacy courses and stuff in the background. Second 6 months, that's where it does step up, right? Yeah. But this depends on your chambers as well. My chambers prepared me quite well for my second 6. First day in was a mess. Solicitor sent me in with an incomplete brief. I didn't know. I rock up, right? Judge, I still remember the judge's name. I'm not going to name her. She was a deputy district judge, still is. One of the most horrible judges I've ever met. And
speaking of this only, you are, like, your origin is from Pakistan, right? You're born and raised in the UK, studied there, practicing law there, you have a licensed lawyer. Great, but your name is Adil, right? That's a Pakistani name. And do you think that you've ever faced any discrimination from anyone, a judge, a colleague, an opponent?
I'm not going to say it doesn't exist. There's a focus on it now. It's never happened to me. Alhamdulillah, it's never happened to me.
Never happened to you?
I've never had an issue like that. I've had other reasons to be discriminated.
For example?
I'm quite young, I think, to be a barrister. At least I was when I started. I was 22. Yeah. So when I was called, I was 20.
That's a sin everywhere in the world when you're a lawyer. If you're just a young lawyer.
If you're young, you get looked at. It's very pedantic, and so that's there's a bit of ageism there. The bar's quite an old profession. It's much older than.
What do you think are the chances for a student to go to the UK after A-levels to pursue undergrad and then becoming a barrister and then ending up with their pupillage and then practicing eventually in the UK? Do you think the chances are slim?
If you work, no. If you work hard, you're good. I take a very simple approach to this. You want to be a barrister? Do it. If you're going to start complaining, there's hurdles and do it. What do you mean?
How about I send some students?
For example, is it harder? Work harder.
Yeah.
That's
the right approach. Yeah.
I take a very simple approach to this, which is, it's tough. It's always tough.
What chambers do you work with?
St. John's Buildings.
Right. So they're like different, chambers having different level of, reputation?
Yeah, I think so. So we're one of the biggest, if not the biggest chambers. We have over 250 members. We're huge.
250 members?
Yes. So we're...
By members, you mean the lawyer?
Barristers, yeah. So
Barristers.
we're across 5 sites. So we're in Chester, Leeds, Liverpool,
all right.
Manchester, and...
Is there any eligibility criteria for you to enter into or be a part of a particular chamber, or just have to be a barrister?
No. So you have to, there's a selection process. So the chambers will want you if they're looking to expand into a certain area of law. So our commercial...
Do they interview you or something?
Yeah. So for pupillage. And if you go post pupillage, the...
All right. So you go to a chamber through a pupillage.
Yes. So you join chambers. And you can go after pupillage. So if I want to move chambers, I won't do pupillage again. I'll just do door tenancy, or I'll do a tenancy, and but there's a selection process. So for example, one of the best chambers in the country, Blackstone's, for example, or Monkton or Brick Court, all these, where Amal Clooney is, I think that's Pump Court. No, it's Doughty Street, sorry. Doughty Street, huge chambers in London. A lot of these really big ones are in London. Garden Court, for example, another one. These chambers will have a slightly bigger reputation. I'm not saying they're better.
Yeah.
They're not. I don't think they are. But look, if you put a Blackstone's barrister in front of me, we'll deal with it.
This goes live later.
That's fine. No, don't get me wrong. Like you deal with the barristers that come in front of you. Barristers are wonderful, and they must be good, right? Otherwise they wouldn't be barristers. Having said that, there's a difference in quality sometimes, and I'm not saying I'm the best barrister. I'm not the best barrister. I've got so much to learn. But you deal with the argument put in front of you. You can't hide behind someone being a better barrister. Or what does that mean? An argument is as good as it's put in front of you.
I have a great idea. Let's do a moot court together. Let's do it.
So
I say with the prosecutor, you do the defense.
I'll do the defense. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That would be great.
Give me an IP case. And I'll do it. But yeah, I think
we'll do a criminal one. I don't.
Yeah, crime. I do think criminal barristers have the best stories. I shouldn't put it like that.
I should play defense then. But yeah,
I do better in defense. Even in chess,
anyone does that better defense.
Yeah. Defense is easier.
Reasonable doubt.
Commercial's fun.
But generally, what do you think moot courts have facilitated you in developing any skill that is
for sure.
Yeah.
I'll give you the biggest example.
Just an advice. Sorry to cut you. Advice to any young student who is an A-level student who's taking law and A-levels, or even a student who is an undergrad, or even a student who wants to become a barrister later. Moot courts are good.
Yeah, always. Yeah, of course. Any advocacy is good. Go do public.
You've done Jessup, yeah?
Jessup was a revelation. Jessup was brilliant. It was. I'm still very in touch with the team. I help prepare them every year in Liverpool. They're doing better and better. I think they made it to the...
So you train students who eventually, make it, who's participating in Jessup?
Yes, so I don't train them, I take part in the training, I'm not their coach, but I take part every year, and it's...
You're a trainer for us now as well.
I'll do it, I'm happy to help, and of course, you're Pakistani, of course, but the thing...
Look at the camera and say this, I am Barrister Adil, and I will train mock students for Jessup, yeah?
You can edit this out later, right? No, I'm kidding, of course, I'll look forward to helping out. But I'll explain this, right? I'll explain why Jessup's very good, and anyone who's watching should get involved with Jessup. It's because of this. The advocacy style in normal mooting competitions is very different to Jessup. Jessup is a conversation. That's what actual advocacy is like. It's a conversation, right? The mooting conversations are very much, according to the All England reports of 1946. Man, no one says that in actual court. It just says judge.
That isn't a speech. It's a conversation.
It's a conversation, right? And it's free flowing. It's a back and forth. That's good advocacy, man. That's what Jessup is. It's fantastic. And it really changed the way I thought of advocacy. Because I'll tell you what it is. Structures, as we know, is very important.
Yeah, the skeleton argument. Yeah.
You focus on this a lot in your teaching. Structure's everything, right? I'll tell you what I think actually is everything. Structure's a fantastic skeleton. Substance is everything. If you know what you want to say, right, your question can throw me off and I'll come back to it because I know what I want to say. Right? And that's what Jessup judges focus on this. They're taught to, right?
You think the network that you've made in the, while participating at Jessup, do you think that has helped you anywhere? Networking, I mean.
So I take a cynical approach to networking. I think networking is important, obviously, just because the bar is a small place. I don't think it helps. With solicitors, it does, because you want to reach out to solicitors, and if you post things that you're doing, some people pick up. I've maybe received 2 or 3 instructions from LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn, you want to have a good reputation as a good person, as a nice person to meet, as a things, and hopefully I got somewhat of a nice reputation. But
27th Amendment के बारे में बात करें?
नहीं आप करें. हाँ कुछ पाकिस्तानी चीज़ पे आ जाते हैं. हाँ बात करें जी.
What do you think about Bilawal Bhutto?
I think he's it's a difficult.
Let's be genuine about that.
A very genuine question. Very genuine answer actually.
Or shall I add to the question? What do you think of Bilawal Bhutto compared to Mr. Imran Khan?
Oh, he's far better. Bilawal is far.
Imran is better?
No, not at all. Not at all. Imran Khan's a facade.
I want to debate you because we're on the...
I'll explain, right? Here's the thing. Imran Khan is a fantastic opposition leader. If he, अगर वो सुधर जाते थोड़े से, तो he would have made a fantastic parliamentarian. लेकिन उनको interesting था parliament में बैठने का. उनको ट्रक पे खड़े रहना था. Government में आने के बाद भी वो opposition ऐसा लग रहा था opposition में है. यार अब आप government में आ गए हो. You can't stop complaining, start acting. You're in the government. It's your turn, right? Do it. Bilawal is a fantastic parliamentarian. Do I think he'll be Prime Minister? No. Unless the powers that be determine that he is, right? Pakistani politics with the HVTs aa jati hai, right? But, and do I think he'll make a good Prime Minister? Yeah, I think so. But do I think naturally he'd be a Prime Minister? Probably not. But do I think he's a good politician? Yeah, he's fantastic. भाई उनका बाप कौन है ये तो भी देखें. उनका बाप सबका बाप है.
आप यूके में लॉ फॉर प्रैक्टिस करते हैं, आप तो ऐसी बातें ना करें.
No. But the thing is, politics is different. I told you, right? Politics is my one true love, right? Like, so politics is what.
Do you plan on pursuing politics?
At some point, probably, yeah. At some point, I'll probably leave the bar at some point.
In the UK or Pakistan?
You heard it here first, right? But yeah, I'll probably leave the bar at some point. If I don't become a judge, yeah, probably. But I'll explain why. So it's
a lot of lawyers don't want to actually end up becoming a judge because they love advocacy. So
and advocacy pays more. Like in judge, so I'm quite ambitious. If I stay at the bar, I want to be a KC. If I don't see myself becoming KC, I'll become a judge. But if I become a judge, I want to be Court of Appeal, High Court, right? And it's not easy. That's a very, very high bar. You have to be an outstanding, judge to get there. But otherwise, why am I doing it? If you don't want to leave a legacy, if you don't want to be at the Court of Appeal, if you don't want to be deciding the most important critical cases of your country, and if you're in England, then of the world, really, what's the point?
Have you been able to set a precedent till date in the UK?
I have.
You have? What is it called? We'll go search it up.
So it's not a reported judgment, unfortunately, but it's been applied twice now. I've applied it both times. I've applied every case. It's a defamation case.
Right.
It's an interesting debate because I think it's wrong. And it's my precedent, but I think it's wrong. Legally, I think it's wrong. It's to do with third-party disclosure and defamation. So, defamation, as you know, is जब मैं आपके बारे में एक slanderous चीज़ बोलता हूँ to a third party.
Untrue statement.
Untrue statement to a third party, right? So it has to be disclosed to that third party. लेकिन and so what is that? What's the definition? I'll give you an example. There's this really famous case from 18 something, right? 1850 or whatever. I think it's called Renhack, potentially. So that might be wrong, but
and I'm sorry, but
I'll explain the precedent. I'll explain the precedent. So as I explain what the case is, in England, and this is still good law till date, if a husband speaks to his wife about you, एक husband अपने बीवी को बोला अरे यार ये तो, and then something, right? And words of abuse, कमीना बोलेंगे, it doesn't matter because that's not defamation. Like if they make an allegation, like ये fraudster है, right? That doesn't count as third-party disclosure because husband and wife communications are sacrosanct. They're protected, right? Yeah. So I used that and I said, and there was dicta as to why that's important. I applied it to corporate life and I said communications within a company should be protected, just like it is between husband and wife. So,
and by the way, the ratio and dicta are equally, persuasive in the court.
Ratio or ratio, I suppose, is important for explaining to a judge why they should follow you, especially if there's conflicting authorities. Dicta is that what I've just said. It applies to dicta. Ratio is the
reasons for deciding.
It's the reasons, right? So that's fundamental anyway. But yeah, so I've been fortunate enough to. But I want to come back to this 27th Amendment point. Yeah, Bilawal point.
I try to move away from that.
Yeah, I noticed. No, but it's very important, right? The state of law.
See, let me just say this. my opinion and a lot of other lawyers' opinion in Pakistan over here, having a federal constitution court over, above the Supreme Court, and this is what the thing is. This is what the thing is. A lot of lawyers and reputable lawyers say it's above. Supreme Court isn't supreme anymore because the federal constitution court is above the Supreme Court. You say it's parallel, right?
I'll give you a clip.
Why?
I'll give you a clip that you can frame.
Okay.
So this all the reputable lawyers are wrong. That's your clip. They're wrong, right? I'll explain, man. It's so simple, right? We can get bogged down in this idea of अरे यार एक ऐसा constitutional court. Man, Pakistan Supreme Court is inundated with हर चीज एक Supreme Court issue बन जाता है. So moto notice ले लिया भाई. और Supreme Court doesn't have time, man. It's a country of 280 million people. It doesn't have time. It can't operate like the United Kingdom's. It can't, right? Germany's structure, they have a separate constitutional court and they have a separate Supreme Court. America's Supreme Court, so every state will have their own Supreme Court legislature, and then they have their own Supreme Court. America's Supreme Court literally only really rules on constitutional issues. So they don't need to have a separate one because there's one federal Supreme Court.
So you're saying having a constitutional court, just the main factor of having a constitutional court is that it will save of time and efficiency will increase because the constitutional matter can just go to the
and also you have specialized judges that know constitutional matters. Not every judge is specialized. Obviously, you'd hope that any judge sitting.
What about the other aspects of the 27th Amendment, though?
So there's a number of them out there. Immunities.
What about the immunity?
Immunity is a very interesting one. Okay, so there's a. I'll give you a very true answer to this. I don't think the president should have.
The father of the politician that you admire so much, he's immune now.
Yes. That should be.
Do you think law is good or is
absolute immunity shouldn't exist. That's my view.
And that is where your likely personality that you have, Bilal Saab. This is what he's supposed to learn from the father.
He's wrong. I mean, so you can admire someone's abilities, but you don't have to agree with all of them, right? So, okay, I'll explain, right? Bhai, actually, PPP से गलती होगी, Bilal से गलती होगी, right? They back this immunity concept. नहीं, बस ये गलती नहीं है, गलती तो बहुत है, राइट? मुझे आपको ऐसा
अग्री करते हैं, गलतियां हैं,
राइट? इमरान खान तो अभी जेल में बैठे हैं।
नहीं, ये क्या बात है कि दूसरे बंदे ने गलती की तो हम भी गलती करें तो खैर है। नहीं, एक नमाज छोड़ दी तो सारी छोड़ देते हैं।
खैर नहीं है, आपको इशू उठाना है, पार्लियामेंट में उठाएं।
अच्छा, मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि पीपल्स पार्टी मेक अमेजिंग पॉलिसीज, अमेजिंग, वेरी इंक्लूसिव, वेरी डाइवर्स।
एक ही पार्टी जो मैनिफेस्टो निकालती है, भाई ट्रक पे खड़े होकर चिल्लाती नहीं है, वो भी करती है।
ठीक है, तो मैनिफेस्टो अमल कौन सा करती है?
यार अमल करने का मौका तो दे गवर्नमेंट।
ये क्या बात है? आपकी गवर्नमेंट कितने दफा इलेक्ट हुई है?
गवर्नमेंट में
अच्छा, मेरी बात सुनो।
When was the last time PP was in government?
I'll tell you.
It's a number. It's a number. 2013.
Right.
2013 is the last time PP was in government, right?
Let's talk about this a little, right? Tell me something. So, they have amazing policy, 100% amazing. Wow, right?
I didn't say that, but okay.
Okay, I'll say this for you, okay? And amazing, competent politicians they have, like Bilal.
Some, yeah. Hira Rabbani Khan, fantastic. Zuberi Saab to is
immune, right? Amazing. And the economic policies, the diplomacy is amazing, right?
Diplomacy is, it's the only party that really focuses on diplomacy.
Yeah, okay, I agree with that.
And people do
better than Shama Mutadeshes. But well, the reality is, we have sinned. Yeah, you live in the UK. Why don't you come? हम शिकार पे जाते हैं. आप वहां तक पहुंचे तो सही, कोई सड़क ही नहीं है।
ऐसा भी नहीं है।
Come on.
ऐसा भी नहीं है। ऐसा नहीं है। हम गए यार, पूरे
वो उस इलाके को डिफेंस कहते हैं, इंटीरियर हिंदी कहते हैं।
ऐसा नहीं, हम गए, ऐसा नहीं है। देखो, एक सेकंड। Does Pakistan need further development? Yes. Has PP failed in a lot of respects? Yes. Right. Having said that, आप look at the improvement that they've done. ठट्टा में आप देखें, right? लड़काना में देखें। अब आप बोलेंगे अच्छा अपने इलाकों में कर दिया। नहीं, आप कहेंगे अपने इलाकों में कर दिया।
आप देखें, हम दिखाएं आप हमें कि क्या डेवलपमेंट।
There's so much development. There's a world-renowned cardiac center now, right? अब
let's talk about this cardiac center. Let's talk.
शौकत खानम पे तो सब चढ़ जाएंगे, right? कि अरे शौकत खानम हो गया, क्या हो गया, right? लेकिन
नाम क्या है इसका? आप गए वहां पर, आप जाकर
हमें कार्डियक इश्यूज नहीं है तो हम नहीं गए।
नहीं तो आप जब एक क्लेम करें तो तस्लीम करके क्या क्लेम करें ना।
तो जरूरत नहीं पड़ी वहां जाने की यार। अच्छा एक सेकंड
तो फिर आप उसको कोड ना करें।
आपको इमरान खान अच्छा लगता है? पर्सनालिटी
as an individual at an individual level, I think what he's achieved in one lifetime people can't achieve in 10 lifetimes.
तारीफ कर रहे हो उसकी, तारीफ
as an individual I like it.
फंटास्टिक। मिले उससे।
ये कैसे
तो आप कैसे एविडेंस कर सकते हैं? अभी आपकी बात है ना, आप मिले उससे।
मैं बता रहा हूँ, जवाब दे रहा हूँ। मैं इमरान खान से नहीं मिला।
नहीं मिला।
मैंने इमरान खान के सारे इंटरव्यूज जल से देखे आपने कार्तिक चंद्र के कौन से इंटरव्यू और वीडियो देखी
बहुत सारे देखिए यार अरे
आपने देखी इसको
brother you can
comparing a man with the
it now.
facility come on
अरे मान भी तो उसकी भी तो पूरी रेपुटेशन फैसिलिटी पे कायम है और एक
Not necessarily, come on, not
मैं बोलता हूँ
necessarily.
यार वर्ल्ड कप वापस दो हमें नहीं चाहिए if you can get rid of Imran Khan honestly this sounds very harsh but I'll be harsh. Imran Khan is a curse to Pakistan. He's become
and Zardari Saab is a blessing to us
no of course not Zardari साहब तो एक ऐसे अजाब है जो सहना पड़ता है right लेकिन देखिए Zardari की एक चीज है one second सहना पड़ता है I'll tell you why
no I don't support People's Party or PTI. I generally don't support these parties.
Right.
And यहाँ पर आप बोलेंगे ये तो गलत बात है कुछ
मैं पार्टी नहीं देखो
I like Imran Khan as an individual. I also agree with you with the point that he is a failed politician. I agree with that. I agree with that.
Why do you want a failed politician as leading your country?
I never said that I want to lead my country. I never said that. You were saying this.
You as a general statement, right? Why would one want a failed politician?
Zardari. That's what you call democracy. That you fight for the courts as well, no?
He failed, right?
Well,
he got arrested.
Did he?
He got arrested.
Why don't you put your hand on the heart and say that again?
I'm sorry. So he came to okay. So then one second. Listen to the response.
Okay, sure, please.
He came to power with the military and he left with the military, right? You live by the sword, you die by the sword.
यार ऐसी बात ना हो रहा है.
एक सेकंड अरे भाई अभी ख्वाजा आसिफ खुद जाके उसने मेहदी हसन को इंटरव्यू दिया बोला कि it's a shared power system. There's nothing to hide about this, right? It's very open.
ख्वाजा साहब वो बोल सकते हैं.
तो चले हम उनको एको कर रहे हैं. ये आप ये फुटनोट लगा देगा ये उनका कोट है. हम नहीं बोल रहे, right? लेकिन so but I know we want to wrap up soon, but I'll just explain this, right? Look, as a lawyer, not as a politician just yet. It's not that I support one party blindly. We need to move past it. And Imran Khan चलिए मैं एक दो तारीफें भी कर देता हूँ. आपको मैं bonus दे देता हूँ. कर देते. Right? One of the best effects that Imran Khan's had is that we're looking past this dynasty system now. Right? भुट्टो और शरीफ पे ही पूरा मुल्क मर जाता है. Right? कोई और बनेगा ही नहीं. That's wrong. Obviously it's wrong. Right? But and so that's one huge benefit, and अगर कोई और सोचना पड़ेगा दूसरा कोई और benefit, right? But that's a really good impact that Imran Khan's actually genuinely had. As I said this right at the beginning. He was a fantastic opposition leader. He ran a wonderful campaign, right? And the moment he came into power, he failed, right? So and that's a shame. With Bilal,
I mean, he wasn't able to deliver on the promises that we made.
Right, exactly.
But when at People's Party, we amended that very differently.
Well, I'll explain. Absolutely. So Zardari को हम सेना क्यों पढ़ते? I'll explain. Zardari's not a failed politician.
सेना पढ़ क्यों रहा है?
Because he's not a failed politician. He's a necessary evil, I think. Right? Where सेना पढ़ते? Okay, tell me this. Is there a better political mind in Pakistan than Zardari?
That is a very subjective opinion. Depends on what are the parameters that you. That depends.
Political mind.
That depends.
I didn't say moral mind. I said political mind.
So when you're saying that you have bad and worse, you have to choose between.
You choose bad because worse is worse.
So you agree that Zardari is bad? Yes.
Well,
okay.
One second.
You make my point for me.
No. For the sake of argument, I'll say this, right?
आप
बोलते corrupt है, case proof करें ना, right? वो तो फिर अगर if you want to play this game of I don't know what we're doing, if you want to play that game, right? Proof करें.
आपने जो 17वीं अमेंडमेंट निकाली है उसके बाद कैसे प्रूफ करें? जज ही चेंज कर देंगे.
It's a moral issue, right? No. So one second. अच्छा judges पहले नहीं change होते थे. Judges पहले नहीं change होते थे.
इस तरह से थे.
चलिए अब आप खुला हो रहे हैं और ये वैसे तो one second. So Pakistan has a huge democratic deficit. I agree. Yeah, of course it does. Does it need change? Yeah, of course it does. Right. Other issues? Yeah, of course there are. Right. Of course there are. Right. I'm not hiding away from that. You're saying. Give me a better alternative.
You say what?
Give me a better alternative.
I don't have any better alternative.
Wonderful. Then let's stick to the best we have.
I never claimed.
Then let's stick to the best we have.
No, let's not agree that the particular option that we have is an amazing option. Let's not say that.
At what point did I say that?
That you're suggesting that.
When did I say that? When did I even imply that?
Times.
Explicitly, I actually said he's actually quite.
Have you not implied that multiple times? Come on.
I explicitly said he's evil. I called him a necessary evil. At what point did I say he's good?
So you agree with
Zardari, by the way.
You agree.
Bilal was not a necessary evil. Bilal was actually quite good.
Huh?
Bilal was quite good.
Well, you don't know yet.
Well, he ran the best campaign in the recent elections.
I'm not talking about the character particularly. Give him power, we'll see that later.
So you agree you think he'll come into power?
Yes.
Wonderful.
I agree. So, it's been amazing. Let's do the mood court very soon. That would be really nice. And inshallah, but to be honest, yes, no, thank you very much for taking out time from the busy schedule. I mean, I'm proud of you, and I think I've had a lot of learning in this particular conversation that we've just had. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in the UK. I'll be coming next year. And I think our students of the MOK Global Community UK chapter will benefit a lot, right? Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.